Welcome back to Askewed Reviews, and we have another movie request, and it is for the 1991 action adventure comedy Hudson Hawk. Here is your trivia question for today. Almond Joy mentions that her group originally had code names that were diseases. What was her code name during that time? The answer will be at the end of this video. So our story for this film starts a long time ago, where we meet Leonardo da Vinci. He is apparently working on some sort of alchemical contraption that hopefully will turn lead into bronze. It instead ends up turning lead into gold. Da Vinci, realizing how dangerous this can be, decides to take the machine apart and hide the pieces. We now jump ahead to modern time, where we meet Eddie Hawkins, also known as the Hudson Hawk, a very famous thief. Eddie is just getting out of prison for having committed a few crimes, and his best friend Tommy is there to pick him up and bring him back home. Unfortunately, almost immediately, Eddie is being blackmailed into committing quite a few interesting heists. And all of the people forcing him to do so are quite an interesting cast of characters. You have the Mario brothers, who are part of the Mafia, George Kaplan of the CIA, along with his team of agents that are all named after candy bars: Almond Joy, Kit Kat, Snickers, and Butterfinger. There's also the eccentric millionaires, Darwin and Minerva Mayflower, along with their twin bodyguards and their butler Alfred, who apparently has retractable blades up his sleeves. And of course, all of these people are after the pieces of Da Vinci's creation. Now, Eddie luckily does seem to have some people on his side as well, including his best friend Tommy, and a woman he just met named Anna, although she seems to be hiding a few things as well. So, will Eddie ever get some peace and quiet and finally just be able to relax with a cappuccino? John McTiernan was originally looked at to be the director for this film, as he had worked with Willis on Die Hard, but he ended up turning it down. So Michael Lehman ended up being the director for this film, mainly due to the fact that they enjoyed his work on the movie Heathers. Hudson Hawk was actually the last movie produced by TriStar Pictures before merging with Columbia Pictures. The name of the film actually comes from a song that was created by Robert Kraft. He was good friends with Bruce Willis and had a song called The Hudson Hawk, which is about the wind that comes off of the Hudson River in Lake Michigan, which is where they give the explanation for where the name comes from in the movie. This is also the only movie where Bruce Willis and Robert Kraft are given writing credits. Robert Kraft would also go on to be the head of the music department for 20th Century Fox starting in the mid 90s. The movie is supposed to be a bit of an homage to the original Bing Crosby and Bob Hope road comedies from the 40s and 50s. The movie was filmed in quite a few different locations, including New York City, New York, Rome, Italy, Budapest, Hungary, London, England, and Los Angeles, California. There was also originally a subplot that I'm very glad that they dropped. Apparently, Eddie was going to have a pet monkey named Little Eddie, who Tommy was taking care of while he was in prison, and supposedly the monkey was killed by Caesar Mario. Danny Aiello was apparently everyone's first choice for the character of Tommy. Luckily, he accepted the role. Apparently, the character of Tommy was originally supposed to die, but Aiello pleaded for the character to stay alive. This is probably going to seem obvious to some, but maybe not to all. Both of the singing voices for both Willis and Aiello are actually both of the actors. Andy McDowell, who plays the character of Anna, does a good job in my opinion, but there were also some other actresses up for the role, including Isabella Rossellini, Marushka Detmers, Famke Janssen, Madonna, Natasha Kinski, and Joanne Whaley. Darwin Mayflower was originally going to be the only Mayflower in this film, and he's played by Richard E. Grant, who did a great job. He's always very good at playing a villainous role. In fact, he had an opportunity to play another villain during this movie. He was offered the role of Sheriff of Nottingham in Robin Hood, Prince of Thieves, but the director of this film told him he had to turn it down as they were running over and still needed him for more scenes. Another actor who was up for the role of Darwin was Joss Ackland. Sandra Bernhard does a great job as Minerva Mayflower, but apparently that character was not in the original script. They only wrote in the character when they heard that they might actually be able to get Audrey Hepburn to be a part of the film. Unfortunately, Audrey Hepburn decided to decline, but like I said, Sandra did a great job anyways. Also, speaking of the character Minerva, there is something interesting with her death. When Eddie leaves out the piece of the device, and it ends up causing the machine to go haywire and her to get covered in a molten material, That material is actually bronze, and that's actually what Da Vinci was trying to do originally was turn lead into bronze. In the film, they supposedly use ethyl chloride as a sedative. That's not actually true, as ethyl chloride is just a pain reliever. The third act of the film was originally going to be at the Kremlin, as Da Vinci's helicopter was being kept there. In the film, there's a line, directions even your brother could understand. This is directed at Caesar Mario about his brother Antony. But Caesar Mario is played by Frank Stallone, and apparently this is an inside joke towards his brother Sylvester Stallone. Speaking of lines in movies, there's a weird one. Bruce Willis was in two movies in 1991 that both had the line reindeer goat cheese pizza, both this one and The Last Boy Scout. The electronic handcuffs used in this movie have a specific tone, and that tone is the same telephone tone in the Flint movies, including Our Man Flint and In Like Flint. Both of these were comedy spy movies that also both starred James Coburn, who appears in this film as George Kaplan. Now, if you can't get enough of Hudson Hawk, there was actually a video game for this, and apparently it was a bit of a side scrolling adventure. So, when it comes to the film Hudson Hawk, I really do like the movie. It's fun and entertaining. It's definitely not one of Bruce Willis's best movies, but I definitely recommend checking out at least once. And if you like movies like the Kingsman movies or even Austin Powers, I think you will like this one as well. So I'm going to give this movie a 3 out of 5. And as for the trivia question from the beginning of this episode, Almond Joy mentions that her group originally had codenames that were diseases. What was her codename during that time? Her very unfortunate codename was Chlamydia. I hope you enjoyed this episode of Askewed Reviews, and if there's a movie you'd like to see get a review, just mention it in the comments. And as always, like, comment, share, and subscribe. And I'm going to leave you with one of my favorite conversations during this movie. I'll kill your friends, your family, and the bitch you took to the prom. Betty Joe Biarski? I can get you an address on that if you want.